What's up, land of the Lorax?
What's up, my brother?
You getting excited finally?
Well, at least we have a date.
Yeah. So I didn't get to catch the whole thing. Did you actually see the broadcast as to what they said, or?
Yeah, they didn't say too much. He just said June 15th is the next opening date, but salons are going to be the 22nd, and we'll have guidelines by the end of the week. So,
Cool.
but what's interesting is, I know we got a couple people in here. The Somebody posted something about PPP forgiveness and complying with OSHA guidelines, which I thought was interesting. So I don't know if that's true or not, but that was in the salon owners mastermind group. I didn't get a chance to investigate it, but
Yeah, I've been quite busy myself, so yeah.
I don't know how they would check. I don't know how they would check that.
Listen, we had one of the owners in the group, one of their stylists made an OSHA complaint um, based on the height of the chairs of all things.
Really?
Yes, and it's almost a joke because OSHA has such limited um, abilities, but it's a hassle, right? If anybody here thinks that OSHA is going to be able to police, how many salons do we have in the country right now?
I don't. 700 and something thousand stylists. So divide them, and it's. I mean, it's a good number.
So I mean, it's just impossible. Hey, Gail. Good for you. I see you got cleaned up there, James.
Oh yeah, that was a test case.
Me too. I said just as salons are getting ready to reopen, right? I go and get my hair cut at home. But,
We did a masked loved run, and I was the guinea pig. So I'm happy
that's
about
good.
it.
Oh, good. Hey, Sarah, we're on the webinar. Can I call you afterwards? Okay.
God, let's see.
Yes, Facebook Live, I guess. See what happens on a Monday night.
Let's see.
Here we go. This, this this is never a good sign when it loads this slow.
Let's see.
You're not upstairs in the
I
upstairs
am.
lounge, are you?
I am the
Oh, you are.
background. The background is actually it's an old picture, but the background is actually the salon.
This is not good, James. We are getting absolutely nothing on Facebook Live tonight.
Tina Black is in the house.
Good to see you.
Doing something.
Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you great,
Okay.
and it's right by my side.
Ah, I love ya.
Hey, listen, when all this crap is over, I expect this to be signed, okay?
Okay, you got it. As soon as we can see each other in person, right? Oh my goodness. Hopefully soon. For sure. I love it. How's it looking for you guys right now in New Jersey?
We got our date today, June 22nd.
Okay, you got it today.
Wow.
All right. We still haven't gotten our date in Michigan, so we've been open in Florida, but not in Michigan yet. So I think we're going to be the last one to open.
I mean, no guidelines, so we may have to cut hair standing on our head. We don't really know what they're going to make us do, but
Oh my gosh. Hi, Andrew. Good to see you.
Hey, Tina, how you doing?
Amazing, as always, of course. I'm so glad
What's
you
with
guys.
Michigan? What's with
And-
those guys?
I know, that's what I'm saying. I tell you, it's just a test of my focus and my reaction. That's it, you know?
My son's sister-in-law, one of them, is in the state legislature in Michigan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and she's a ferocious, independent person who so disagrees with what's going on.
I totally need to get with this person, please, and
Her
thank
name
you.
is Andrea Schroeder.
So
Okay, very
Facebook,
good. I love it.
Andrea
right,
Schroeder.
guys, we are live on Facebook. Hey,
All
Tina.
right. Hey, thank you guys so much for asking me back. I appreciate this so much. It's going to be a great night. Michigan governor said a couple more weeks before you can get your bangs cut. Oh, someone said on the page that she said to Google it. So, okay.
Listen, you know they've been cutting their own bangs. That's, you know, we've seen all those. Which the sad part is that they're not even fake videos, right? They're like people that actually made a fake video and actually sacrificed their bangs, and they have these bangs that are up to here that are. I don't know if I would do that for YouTube followers, but Derek might.
No,
Derek might.
I've never been there. Thank you.
Derek's got a. You all have good haircuts actually right now. I can't see Andrew's, but Derek and James looks good.
Yeah, we all got skin.
Oh, there we go. You look good, Andrew.
Thank you, Tina.
Yeah, Tina, I was the tackling dummy on Sunday to cut with the shield and everybody masked up and gloves. So, I mean, I'm legally allowed to because I live with my hairstylist. But so I was the test case, and I know he may not be on here, but the infamous Rock LeMay from Davines gave me my hair color formula. So, Rock, if you do watch this in the rewatch, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, that's the best. I love it. Luckily, my hairstylist is my daughter. So, and then we opened up in Naples, Florida. So we're good to go there. It's been a very interesting 2 weeks, to say the least,
Yeah.
for sure. Very good though.
How's
It's been
Naples?
very good. Lots of great discoveries and lots of new normals that we're super excited about.
What's going on in Naples, Florida? That's okay?
Yes.
It's
Yeah, we're
okay
doing
down there.
good. Yep. Yeah, we're doing. Yeah, Florida's been really great anyway, I have to say, all around for sure. I'm in Florida right now as we speak. I came back down here.
Oh,
and I'll
I'm
be
jealous.
back in Michigan.
Especially Naples, right? You're supposed to go down and watch the sunset party on the beach.
Exactly.
So Tina, since you've been open in Florida, I know, you know, obviously a lot of people have been gracious enough to post while we're in our pre-show. They've posted, you know, a lot of really good feedback. I mean, every once in a while, you know, I mean, listen, I got my first text message about an appointment. The governor was still on in New Jersey, and he said the 22nd. And as I'm watching him, I already had someone text me right away, and I'm like, can we have guidelines or something, please? Like, but anything. I know you're always a positive one, but give us a little bit of the positivity of what's been going on down there.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Well, we've been open for 2 weeks, and my team of 2 right now, because the rest are assisting and also working, you know, as coordinating and answering the phones. But we've actually been shifting how we do business. And in my opinion, it's fewer clients, more meaning. And honestly, it's been amazing because they've been able to do more services on their guests, and they haven't felt rushed. Because we always double booked and triple booked and that sort of thing. We were always open just 4 days a week, and they would see 2 to 3 clients at a time. But now they're bringing in just as much money as they were before. Are they working a few more hours? Yes, not an exorbitant amount. We won't allow them to go over 40 hours a week, obviously. And I told them from the day one, I said, I'm not going to wear you guys out. That's the last thing I want to do. Now, I'm going to say, of course, they're worn out because they've been off work for a while. So it's kind of like one of our students out of school. Once they start working in the salon, they're exhausted, you know, versus, you know, someone that's been in the business for 20 years. But wearing a mask has been the hardest part. And it's like you're breathing in carbon monoxide the whole time, you know, and they're about ready to pass out. Plus we're in Florida and it's hot down here. And so it's making it even harder, you know, for them. So we just have to make sure we keep the air as high as we can keep it on for them, you know, through that process. But all in all, I told them, I said, just keep, you know, switching out your mask. But financially, I think we're going to be doing way better than we were before. And I think we're going to be changing the way we do business and giving our clients a lot more extraordinary service. So it's been really, really great. So we're excited.
Cool.
The team is excited. The only advice I would give, and I think you guys have said it from day one, to be honest with you, and I've been doing it in all of our salons, and obviously Michigan has the opportunity to do this, but go slow. Just open slow, allow, do a soft opening, allow your team to just, you know, slowly integrate themselves into practice the procedures, because it's a little scary, you know, in the beginning for them, because it's brand new to them. And so just allow that and let them work on each other. And so that's what we did. And they felt comfortable. And I said, you guys open as soon as you think you're ready. And they did. And they, you know, boots hit the ground and they were ready to rock and roll. So all in all, we do have clients, I'd have to say, in Florida is interesting in itself, but some of them don't want to wear a mask. And one went out in her car and pouted the whole time she had her color on. And then she came back and she, you know, had an attitude adjustment. But the kind of the thought is, you know, it's my American right to not have to wear a mask. And, you know, we get that, but we're like, but, you know, we need to protect the rest. So they just responded in love, you know, with them. And we're just, you know, we haven't lost any clients. Now we did, I have to say, we started with a $10 COVID fee in the beginning and readjusted that based on being able to actually fully charge. So I'm embarrassed to tell you, but my team has disproportionately charging. And so, like, let's say if they felt hurried and rushed in the past, they would be like, oh, well, I'm only going to charge you this for the cut, because they never felt that they were giving the service that they should have been for them. But now I'm like, there will be no complimentary services. There will be no discounts. You guys are going to charge what you're worth. And they're like, okay, yes, we got this. And so now they're charging full prices. So that's why they
raise your prices.
So what we did is we still are charging a $5 COVID fee where we're at, and we'll be doing the same thing in Michigan. And I would say in higher city, I would definitely stick with the $10 just to help out with that. But because of the fact that they're fully charging prices now, this is why they're coming out ahead. And so I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen in our Michigan salons too. So it's lots of pivoting, lots of rechecking, you know, how are we doing? They're selling a lot more take home, you know, retail than they ever were before. So that's been exciting. And, you know, we're 2 weeks in, so.
That's great. Let me ask you, should we have contacted one of these crazy guys at like the Wynn Hotel in Vegas with these oxygen machines that they pump in throughout so people spend more money? Because if everybody's in a mask, I mean, you know, vanilla scented oxygen pumped through the salon to elevate the experience, a little euphoria or something.
I think we're going to have to do something, James, for sure. So
there are some owners actually buying you can buy the little cans of the oxygen. There's some owners buying them now.
Yeah, honestly, it may not be a bad thing. I don't believe that the masks are going to go away anytime soon. I really don't. We were thinking, you know, it's probably going to be, you know, just how we do things now. Now, I will say I went to the doctor today and no one had on a mask in there, which I found interesting. And I've talked to a couple other people and they said, yeah, our doctor's office is not wearing a mask either. So kind of an interesting facet, right?
Do you think, you know, it's funny, from being open for 2 weeks, so everybody's had that client that comes in sick and says, well, my daughter's wedding is Saturday, so I had to come get my hair done. Sorry, I'm going to cough all over you. And, you know, this is pre-COVID. Do you think things like the face shields and everything else where it's like, hey, I want to be safe, so you said you have a cold, I'm going to put my shield on, and it could be something that's brought into salon uniform, or something you could just say, hey, you know what? I'm not that comfortable with what you have going on, so I'm just going to wear my shield today. And, you know, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think both cases. I think one is going to be how we're going to practice is not working on sick clients, like just cancel your appointment. But like you said, if they absolutely have to be worked on, okay, let's wear the mask and the shield, it's double protection. I was in dentistry for 14 years, so that's what I wore. And I was telling my team, I'm like, you guys never know, that could be you. And I know some states are requiring both. Our states so far, now Michigan could be a whole nother case, is only requiring just the mask. Of course, some of our team wears glasses as well, like I do. So
It's interesting about the doctors because on a number of levels, I mean, what are you going to say to a doctor? Put on a mask? I don't trust you. I don't trust your judgment. No. But us, there's a whole...
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother facet because I've been training my team because of my dental background, but I'm like, hey, you guys don't touch your mask. You can't touch your mask because that's like touching your face, and then you're going to touch your client, you're touching your mask, and you see it all day long. You see people pulling their masks down, and, you see it in this industry as well. So that's a whole nother ballgame.
Well, you can't breathe with these things,
I know.
Well, hey, Maria asked on Facebook, are you guys using blow dryers in Florida?
Okay, so this is interesting. At first, we were like, no, let's not use blow dryers so we can see more clients. But same thing that happened, I think, to most salons was, you really can't perfect a great haircut and feel like you're doing a great job for your guests. So we went back to the blow dries. In the beginning, they didn't. And my team came back to me. And again, as a leader, listen to your team, let's talk through this process. And their fast blow dryers are incredible at it. And I went in and got my hair colored and blow dried just a couple days ago, and it went really well. Everything's running really smooth the way that they're doing it as well too. So yeah, we went back to the blow dry.
Yeah, in our area in New Jersey and New York, I have a feeling they're going to come back and say no blow dries because ventilation was something that kept coming up. But I had said to our staff, I said, especially in those first few weeks, I mean, granted, listen, whether it spreads the virus around, that's not my issue. And the timing obviously is one thing. You can fit more people in, but it was the sound effect. If you're trying to, everybody's masked and gloved and whatever craziness we're going to have to do here in New Jersey, and obviously New York City where Andrew is, it's probably going to be worse. Listen, you figure you're afraid, right? Clients come in, they're happy to see you. They have a mask on. You're going to fist bump or elbow bump, and, it has all its oddities, but we've always been a more fun environment. And I said, maybe we have to go to that spa-like mentality and say, hey, we want a relaxing environment. So the blow dryer just throws that, all of these, I don't care. Listen, I'm not going to knock the Dyson because, Sir Dyson may flatten my tires, but these newer blow dryers that have that shrill sound that sounds like a screaming hamster inside running the wheel of a Dyson. But imagine that, right? You're gloved, you're masked, your shields are on, and the client obviously missed you, and you have that weird sound effect in the background. And listen, I have 3 kids at home, and if a Dyson makes me crazy, I can assure all of you that want to buy one, I'll trade you any day of the week because the sound effects of 3 kids is nothing to match a Dyson blow dryer.
Oh, James, tell you a funny story. Here's how innovative some of the salon owners are getting. In Rhode Island, which just opened, I believe, today, one of my coaching clients, Sarah, she's actually putting pop-up tents outside to do the blow dryers, the blow dries. So it's pretty funny out in the parking lot, right? In the tents. But as funny as it sounds, people will innovate, people will get around this. We will figure out a way, depending on some of the crazy rules that are in effect. How do you take, for instance, Florida or Texas or something. How do you not run your air conditioning?
Exactly.
Give me a break, right?
Yeah.
It's silly. It's silly. Mask up, do your best.
But it's funny, Derek, because that actually gave me a good idea. So obviously being in the green salon, we used to do a really long, we did an outdoor event for Earth Day every year that in the last year we did it, which was 2 years ago, we get over 5,000 people there. We did an outdoor solar powered blow dry bar, which if anybody wants to do it, I can give you the instructions, but I would say don't do it because you need somebody to, there's a lot of troubleshooting and there's a lot of batteries. And, we got home at the end of the day and I was like,
man, it doesn't rain.
Yeah, I mean,
Not a good idea.
And it's a sunny day.
I'm surprised I didn't come home like Doc Brown from Back to the Future, like, you know. But you could do something like that and make it interesting for them outside. Put it outside and say, hey, listen, as long as it's not raining, just run them and go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as a woman, I mean, I know how important it is to get a great blow dry. So, as a man, maybe you can get by, obviously, without doing it. But a woman, I mean, that's part of the service, because you can't blow dry your own hair like a stylist can, So I think it's important.
We're going to get started in just a minute here. But one thing I wanted to say before this goes, and I want everybody to appreciate this because I'm already getting the secondary, trying to think of the wording for it, but the secondary issue you're going to deal with as an owner. Okay, you're going to get slammed with everybody that you have right now for the next probably 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks if you're lucky. Okay, but after that, you better be marketing during those 4 weeks for that gap period to bring in new people, because some of the salons are already calling me. The surge is over. What do I do for marketing? It's already too late, because by the time that marketing becomes effective, you're on to your next surge, because now we're setting, it's a weird trend we're in right now, right? It's probably the first in the industry where everybody is going to be on that same cycle, right? We're going to be all busy, then all slow, then all busy, because there's going to be gaps. So the salons that are smart, the minute they open, are going to be marketing to those gaps, and consider that gap is going to be anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks after you open. And that's your marketing gap. And then the next 4 to 8 weeks are going to be busy with the people who came in the initial surge. So always remember that, folks. Don't market blindly. Market to your gaps. And I have to tell everybody right now, and it's really important because I was caught off guard with it, and I'm a marketer. Market to this first gap. It's coming, folks. I promise you it's coming.
Good advice.
How's your pre-booking, Tina?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Now they see the need for it because they're not going to get in, because there's so many that can't get in right now. And I think we're in the same position as everyone that's going to be on the call right now. It's just a lack of being able to have people working for us. And so what's our hiring plan going to look like? And I think it just goes back to what I talked about the first time. We got to go back to building a solid culture and be attractable so that we can get that waiting list. I mean, hello, why does Chick-fil-A and why does Starbucks have waiting lists? Like, let's learn from them what they are doing, right? So that we can get people waiting to get in our companies. And I'm not there yet. So everything I'm talking about, I'm preaching to myself as well too. So, and I own schools. So hello, go figure that one out. So I'm still working on becoming attractable as well too. So, but if you guys don't mind, I shifted my presentation just a little bit. I am going to give you lessons I learned in quarantine, and I hope to talk a little bit about the leader's flaws, fatal flaws of a leader. And if I don't get through to that portion of my message tonight, I would love to be invited back to be able to go over that. But I think leaders lead, and I think right now, in the crisis of the tragedy of the death of George Floyd, I really wanted to take some time and give some leadership lessons that I feel I'm learning from that. And I just listened to a John Maxwell podcast that he put out and talked about it as well too. And I think now is not the time to be silent. And as leaders, we really need to speak out, and we really need to speak up as well too. And so I just wanted to kind of share a little bit with you that he talked about, and obviously the tragic murder of George Floyd, and if we could just take 30 seconds just to quiet. And I'm a woman of faith, so just pray if you're a person of faith. If you're not, just a few minutes or 30 seconds just to be quiet and be still for his family and for Black America. So I really wanted to talk about some things that John Maxwell spoke about, and I think it ties into my lessons that I learned in quarantine.
Yeah, so Tina, let's kick off the beginning, get this thing recording. Okay?
Yeah.
Folks, thanks for showing up. Got it, Andrew. Welcome to the Beauty Business Reset, episode 47. Thanks everybody for showing up tonight. Tonight we have our guest, Tina Black. Tina is going to get into a few different subjects tonight, which are really important for owners during this many crises going on right now. So with that, Tina, it's all yours.
Thank you, Derek. I really can't say thank you enough to all of you. I've never seen leaders do this many free calls, in a row. And I can't imagine the time that it's taking away from your family to do this. So thank you. And I know we were talking before the recording, about the recent tragedy of George Floyd. And I think right now, and I'm so glad you asked me to speak today, because with all of this happening, and I really felt like, I really feel that Esther moment right now, like I was born for such a time as this. And I believe every leader on this call was born for such a time as this. And we have an opportunity right now to speak up. And now is not the time to be silent. As a leader, we need to lead and we need to speak up. And so something that John Maxwell talked about, and I loved his lesson. I think it's going to tie into the lessons I learned in quarantine. And I can't wait to hear some of the lessons you three learned too. But also everyone that's listening to this call today, what lessons did you learn? But again, we're in a really critical situation right now. And as a leader, I believe that you've got to be able to open up this platform to listen to your people. And so he said, he talked about crisis causes distraction. And I'm sure in the first COVID situation, you were distracted. I know I was. The first 2 weeks, I was completely distracted and my focus was not good. It was on the news and that was stupid and I knew better. And so I got on these calls and instead of watching the news, which I thought was so important, I got on a million webinars, drove my family crazy, but again, what you focus on expands, but what you ignore shrinks. And so John Maxwell has taught us, and it's so cool because I'm a part of 160 countries worldwide. There's over 25,000 of us coaches of all different nationalities. And he's really taught us how to value all religions, how to value all people groups. And so I've been learning this since 2013. And so again, I feel like I was born for such a time as this. And he teaches us to believe in people, value people, and unconditionally love them. And I'm telling you right now, it didn't come naturally in the beginning. It's things that I had to intentionally work on and as a leader. And so I believe these are really great leadership lessons to take away. Number one, to value people. Our first step of leadership, bottom line, is to value people. If you don't value people, you should not be a leader. Otherwise, you're going to manipulate them. Going back to my story when you guys first had me on, that's truly what I felt that I was doing. Because I didn't value my people. I was angry at them. I'm watching different platforms of salon owners angry at their people, and I'm sad. And so, but what I really realized, Derek, James, and Andrew, was that for a long time, I couldn't value people because I didn't value myself. So I had to go back and understand my value first before I could value people. And he said, it can't be us against them. It all begins again with valuing people, nothing more, nothing less. We are our brother's keeper. We are our brother's keeper. And so the action that he gave us, and then I'm giving all of you and I'm giving myself, because trust me, I'm preaching to myself right now, is to value people, look for ways to add value to people, do things to add value, and encourage others to value people. And that's what I'm doing for you guys right now. And this morning I woke up and I'm like, I have got to call all of the African Americans that I know and that I respect, and I want to hear from them. I want to talk to them, and I just want to listen. And so I have a podcast out called The B Series, and I'm pushing aside all the other recordings that are going out. And I'm the next week, this whole week, I'm going to be interviewing the friends that I know, and I'm going to give them a voice. And I just want to sit back and listen, and I just want to learn. And so I just want to implore all of you to do the same. And so I'll put it out and I'll put it on this page so you guys can hear it as well too. But number 2 is just learn and live good values. And so I was just thinking about all of you guys, what you guys have been putting out there. You're teaching Ethics 101. John Maxwell has a great book called Ethics 101 because of the crisis we have in our country. You know, there's a need for leadership, and what an incredible platform, Salon Owner Mastermind, to be a part of, because we can teach that ethics 101, right? Treat people the way that you'd like to be treated. And one of the things that I did in the very beginning, I went to Guatemala, I've gone to Costa Rica to train leadership values. They're called transformational tables. All we do is teach values, that's it. And I'll tell you, this needs to come to America. We need to train and live good values. I just got off a mastermind we've been doing with salon leaders. Thanks to you guys, we have a huge platform of salon owners that are on developing the Leader 2.0. We have a new one coming up, the 15 Invaluable Laws of Leadership. And I'll tell you, we were born such a time as this, and we can't let up. Like, don't get into your businesses and keep working in your businesses. I know you're trying to save them, I get it, but the only way you're truly going to save them is to work on your leadership and work on your foundation and your ethics and get through that process. And so I love this quote from Winston Churchill, and I just want to share it. Before you move their tears, your own must flow. Before you move their tears. So the only way you're going to get transformation on your team is you to be transformed, period. And so number 3, leadership lessons. So the first one was value people. The second is learn and live good values. Number 3 is to care and listen. And that's what I'm going to do this week. I'm just going to care and listen. I'm going to listen to my friends and go through this process with them. And he just said, let's put behind our selfish interests and do what's best for our people. And we can learn this lesson right now. And I tell you, our mission in my salons is people before profit. And I was mentioning earlier that I am not going to move on things in my business until I get buy-in first from my team. And, you know, otherwise I'm going to just, you know, be a tell leader. I don't want to be a tell leader, right? I want to be a transformational leader. And, you know, it's interesting. John Maxwell was talking about this, and I thought you'd enjoy this, is he said, I feel the leadership of our country in the 1960s, there seemed to be a willingness to cross the aisle, put the people before the party. And George Washington, he did not want 2 political parties. And you know what? It's time to be united. We're better than this, because guess what? A crisis brings what's really inside of us. So what's inside of us? Are you reacting? Or are you responding? And, you know, I've caught myself in both areas. I just be honest and frank with you. And lastly, he said, number 4 is to learn and reflect, to minimize our reaction and to maximize our reflection, put behind our reactions and put before us our reflection, because there's 3 zones in a crisis: the fear zone, the learning zone, and the improvement zone. And the fear zone is not good. That's where we're going to start reacting. And so you've got to recognize and be self-aware when you're in the fear zone, because the fear grips you and it does not bring out the best in you, meaning you don't value people, right? And so he talked about this going to the learning zone to the improvement zone. This should be our response. And John Maxwell's from Atlanta, and he said the Atlanta mayor, she's just really incredible. He said she really made a really great response after, you know, everything that's been going on in Atlanta, as you all know as well. But she said, this really is not Atlanta. She said, we're all better than this, but we only be better if we put before us these 4 things. Again, valuing people. So just ask yourself, you know, do I value people? And how do you know that you really do? Have you been learning and living good values? What are you doing to learn and live good values, which I'll talk about here in the lessons in quarantine. And Karen, listen, you know, are you doing that? You know, and it's time to speak up, and it's time for us to listen and to learn and reflect through the process. So you guys, that's the first part of my message that I wanted to share, that I really felt a need with you guys as well too. So if there's anything you liked about that message, type it in the chat message, and I'm going to put it up on lessons I've learned in quarantine. I'm going to share my screen, but Derek, James, and Andrew, in that order. How's that? Derek, James, and Andrew, if you guys can just share, what lessons have you guys learned in quarantine? Like, what's your number 1 lesson?
Patience.
Mm-hmm.
Patience and how to juggle the craziness, right, Tina? Because, you know, I think as a coach and I'm sure other coaches feel this way. The biggest thing we've had to deal with is our own owners that we're coaching, who we saw them as some of the strongest people going, and we've taught them to be strong, showing their vulnerabilities during this time and helping them get over those vulnerabilities. Because right now, going back, guess what, folks? Once you get back in that salon, the vulnerabilities have to be over very quickly, because it's crazy. It's bedlam. I mean, I know from the owners I'm speaking with now that they're back, you know, it's all the things we talked about before the show, Tina, which is, oh my God, I'm slow, I'm tired, I forgot how to do hair, but not really, right? But all this is a mental game in their head, and then breathing through the masks and getting through the day. And once the owners that I've been working with, once the first week is over, most of them are happy to be back, have learned to deal with the issues, and they realize that, you know what, life goes on, and I'm going to make money because I worked hard while I was off. I studied while I was off. I put new systems into effect, and now I'm back. I'm better.
Yeah, back and better. I love that you said patience, and, you know, recognizing what your personality traits are, because I mentioned last time I'm a DISC trainer, DISC. And so knowing you and I are very similar, Derek, because we're that high D. And so patience is always my number one thing I have to work on. And I notice myself, I'll react very quickly because of my impatience. So being self-aware and vulnerability is everything. And that's what your team wants, you know, from you as well too. So James, how about you? What lessons?
You know, I mean, patience, I think, was a great one that Derek mentioned. But really, I think structure, you know, on my end, I know I've said this before, I'm the one that doesn't do hair, so I do everything else besides that. And I just get up and go. And whether it's a light bulb or whether there's a screw loose, whether it's in my head or it's actually in the salon. So it's I never really worked well structured. I just do whatever it is until I pass out at the end of the day. And, you know, my joke always is rinse and repeat, right? But I think I was able to take a step back and actually build a little more structure for myself, not just for the salon. The salon runs like clockwork, but I'm the one that was always the one that was running around like a maniac. And it was, listen, it wasn't that I didn't put my feet up and watch television during the time off. I mean, I haven't stopped working since, but I think that's been helpful for me, is having a little more structured routine.
I love that. And that happens when people love people so much, they just want to serve. And so they become what they call people pleasers, right? And then they end up not pleasing themselves. And it doesn't really help people, you know, through that process. So I love that you shared that, James, because I think that's probably more often than not what you're going to see with most hairstylists in the salons as well too. So thanks for sharing that. So Andrew, what lesson have you learned?
Many lessons. And I've learned the lesson of courage and really having to show up as best I can. And that goes into energy and the necessity to have that energy, which goes into positivity, to wake up each day and no matter what's going on, to be positive. Negativity takes me down. I think it takes a lot of other people down. It's finding a way. There are solutions. And as Derek said, patience too. It's been a long haul and we can go crazy from it, but we have to take a deep breath and just be here, be focused is another thing. James just put it that way. Take care of ourselves. We must take care of ourselves. Like being in, what do they say in the airplane when you're going down?
Put your oxygen mask on first.
If you don't, you can't help a soul. So you have to be clear. Clarity is another thing. I've been very focused, very clear that what I'm doing is making a contribution to the world, as you put it, for yourself.
Mhm.
And that leads into, hey, there's a bigger world out there than just me, so that leads into a little humility, or a lot of humility, and being
Yeah,
humble. Yeah,
I love that.
a lot of lessons here.
What I've learned from you guys is to be a contributor, not just a consumer, and just watching you. And so you guys taught me so much about how to give back even more. Like, you went way above and beyond what I would ever do. But I learned that so much from you. And I love, Andrew, that you said, just show up as best I can. And I think especially right now, just show up as best I can. And you tied it in, Derek, of just being vulnerable, and just, I don't have all the answers, but hey, I'm in it with you guys. And I'm telling you, your people will appreciate that more than anything that you could do. Kelly, she said she needs yoga in her life. It trains me to be calm in stressful situations that she needs into chaos. I love that you said that. And that's something that I've been working on. Is I listen to the Abide app, ABIDE, especially when I'm feeling fear or stressful, especially at night when I lay my head down on the pillow. And so meditation app, which has shifted my mindset, because like you said, Andrew, where focus goes, your energy flows. And so really watching that. And so Pillar said, I really want to finally work for myself, and like Andrew, dust my knees and keep on going. Yeah, absolutely. Dust those knees off for sure. So these are the things that I learned. And I adapted this from a lesson that I learned from Rich Wilkerson Jr. He's from Miami, a really cool guy. I love his messages. And these were the three things that I put down: is to purify my priorities, to challenge my capacity, and to expand my empathy. And I'll tell you, this whole thing happening right now in our country right now, like I said, we can't sweep this under the rug. It's even expanding my empathy even more. And we have a choice when we face a crisis of how we're going to react or respond. And so that's why I love this platform right here with you guys and having the opportunity to speak through this process. So again, talking about purifying my priorities, and you all kind of touched on this as well too, which I thought it was really, really cool. But I thought I was actually pretty good with my priorities, because I speak a lot on balance, so to speak, of how I stay focused and present in all areas of my life, because I don't believe that we're just professional only individuals. And I think most people have kind of treated themselves that way. I'm a high D like you, Derek. And so I have that tendency to just work. And I forget about physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual. And so I've had to intentionally, look through that process. But even more so, I just want to share with you some of the lessons that I've learned through this of purifying my priorities, and just encourage you all through this process too with your priorities. And I think it'll tie into as you build your company. And, when I train salon owners, we do this 6-month course, which is Next Level Salon Leadership. The first month, we really I go through and I'll say, hey, what are your values? Because you as the leader have to own them, and then you have to sell them to your team. And so what you'll do is you'll hire people based on your values in your company. So when I was telling you a little bit about, hey, we're shorthanded in our companies, and I know everybody is right now, and especially as people are coming back, you're going to even feel the squeeze of being shorthanded. So how can we fix that gap? Well, I believe it's fixing our foundation and fixing who we are as leaders, because who we are is who we will attract. And so in order to become that stronger leader, we have to ourselves purify our priorities. Again, going back to what Andrew said, put your own oxygen mask on first. So what are you going to do to lead by example? And I think most salon owners that I coach, I know you guys do too, is that they're great masters of their craft. Like, they know it inside and out. And they can teach it day in and day out, but they're not really masters of their life or their business. And so I know that's why you formed the Salon Owners Mastermind, because you wanted to help bridge that gap and maybe even get them excited about mastering their life and their business. And I think you really have. I think you've shifted and transformed this industry already. And I've watched the different people that are responding on these platforms. And I'm noticing on the platform too, that people are getting a little bit nicer to each other as well too. They're not reacting in anger. I'm seeing more love with your platform as well too. So that's kudos to your leadership through that process. But talking about ways to purify your priorities, I just put down something I learned really quickly was every single day now I'll take a sticky note. I don't know if you guys are huge sticky note fans or not, but every day I write down what 3 things do I want to accomplish to get closer to my goal, to have till I can lay my head down at night and say, I just had the best day of my life through the process, And so that's just one idea that I wanted to throw out there for you guys. But to lean into your values to purify your priorities. So go back to that. So I couldn't think of what my values were for a long time, and I didn't know how I really wanted to hire people. So what I did, I literally was laying down at night about 3 a.m. And I always tell people, because it's true, God himself, I feel, woke me up in the middle of the night. And he's like, Tina, you guys are the lights of the community. And he knows how I love acronyms, right? And so I'm like, okay, well, what does LIGHT stand for? And it was like love, impact, generosity, humility, teamwork, self-aware. It came off that fast. And so just encouraging you to get quiet and to really reflect and to journal and think about what you really value in life. And I'll tell you, when you write it down, and we actually I literally wrote definitions for these like within 30 minutes. And so I have clear definitions of what these are, and our team owns them. We give out rewards every single month. We have a culture ambassador in our salons. And what we'll do is everyone votes of who they felt demonstrated love the most that month, and then impact, and so on and so forth. And it continues to go on. And it's a living, breathing document, because leaders are repeaters, and you have to always put this in front of your people so they understand this is what we stand for. This is, our standards, this is our beliefs, and this is who we are, right? And then what'll happen, and again, I'm preaching to myself, because I know this is going to happen, then I'll have a waiting list. But I had to keep putting it out there. So, I'm a school owner, and it's very interesting the amount of salon owners that call me up and say, hey, can you send me some of your best people? And I'm like, sorry, they're already taken, because the smart salon owners have already been in the school and they're preaching what their values are. They're giving great, they're the Derek, James, and Andrews of the industry. They're always giving to our school. They're in and day out, adding value to our students in our school. And they're the ones that are taking all the best students. And so I ask you, when's the last time you've been in the school? When's the last time you added value to the instructors? I only go after Paul Mitchell students because I'm a Paul Mitchell owner, but you have the opportunity to go after every school, and you can be in every single school. You should be in a school every week, and you as the owner, because you represent the company the best. And so I'm preaching to myself, because we're still working on this process with our owners, because we have partners, and working through that process as well too, and having our culture ambassadors meeting the brand new students in the school. When's the last time you've gone into the junior classroom? We call it core. When's the last time you've been into the junior classroom with that just started school and ask them to come shadow you and do a hangout day? Right? And so you should have students in your school every single week shadowing and hanging out and taking them through that process, because they want to learn from you. They'd rather be with you than us in the school. Trust me. I know I wish they would want to hang out with us, but they don't. And so again, leaning into your values. What are they? I love my tools. This is a shameless plug, James, for my book, Be a Planner, which is a planner. And it's fun. It's written for hair. Yeah, that one's Be Amazing. And I have Be a Planner. I'll have to get you on, James. You know what? Just because you guys are so awesome, I'm going to send you whichever book you guys want, all 3 of you.
I'm only reading them if they're signed. I don't read unsigned books anymore. That's just the way I roll.
I'll send free ones for you guys, since you've been so kind. But what's really awesome is they're just fun things like this. They're colorful. They're written for hairdressers, right? It's just super fun and kind of takes you through a process of reflecting, and journaling. So let me ask you guys, how have you purified your priorities? And I see some people are writing in the chat box. I haven't read them because I was talking so much. But Derek, how have you purified your priorities over this?
Put me on there, right? So I am the fan of sticky notes, right? So And Andrew's going to yell right now because Andrew coaches me also. And you have to understand, sticky notes are everywhere for me. They're even on my mirror getting ready in the morning saying, these are my priorities for the day, things like that. And I've actually, there's a book by a Navy SEAL that's all he does through the whole thing. It's pretty funny that he does that, but I've always done that. So I have notes everywhere, and that's just me. But getting back to the intention of things, so I have priority sets. I have immediate goals. I have daily goals, all those great things. But through this, I've had to go outside of my norm, we'll call it, to help others. So it's kind of taken me out of my schedule right now and put me into theirs, and it's chaotic. So what I've learned and had to focus on is staying focused in other people's chaos right now. And that's been a hard lesson for me right now as a coach to focus on. So this was a learning journey for me because I've always had one or two clients that always were, they had emergencies going on, right? They were putting out fires, whatever it was, because they were reactive instead of proactive and following the lessons we taught them. But right now, whether they followed the lessons or not, it was total bedlam, total chaos for all the owners. And getting them all focused at once and living in their reality was a lesson to be learned for sure.
I love that. I love the fact that you live out so much. The giving is the highest level of living, which you truly do. And, you know, the harvest that you're planting is definitely going to pay off, you know? And so I just love that because I constantly am talking to leaders all the time and saying, okay, whatever you're harvesting right now, it's what you planted a few years ago. And so just continue to harvest good things and keep, you know, reaping because, you know, in my book, Be Amazing, I call Sow and Grow. It's all about everything you sow, you're going to eventually grow. And so I love everything that you stand for through that process. So thanks, Derek, for that. And James, how about you? How have you purified your priorities?
Well, I think more reflection, right? So as Derek said, you have salon owners that are contacting you all day, and we have 3 kids in homeschool over this whole duration. So, you know, because I run the front of house, right? It's always interesting when an appointment is singular for the client, right? It's their haircut, it's their experience, it's about them. And then all of a sudden you're 700 or 800 appointments behind, even for a small salon like us and dealing with homeschool and things. So I felt like the reflection was that the problem solving, I was always a good problem solver. Sometimes it meant I brought a hammer to the wrong party. But you know, the reality of it is that they're all similar situations. So I think being able to step back and reflect, it was like the Matrix, right? Everything slowed down a little bit and you could put the pieces back where they needed to go. And it got a lot easier. I mean, you know, God bless my wife for being the one that handles most of the homeschooling while I deal with the client schooling while we're closed. But it did. It got a little bit easier. And I feel like, you know, whatever happens for next year, I feel like we'll be more equipped to deal with work situations and kid situations and things because of the time.
Yeah, I love that because I just heard this today on one of the masterminds I was leading to future-proof your life and your business. And so that's what I keep hearing from you too. And, you know, something that you kind of made me think about because one of my lessons was that that any crisis is going to separate the players from the pretenders. And so, you know, players are making plays, meaning they're coming up with solutions. They have constant solutions. But me as an owner, being that high D, I always have a solution, you know, because high Ds can have quick, fast reaction, right? But I've been having to relent and allow my team to come up with the solutions. Maybe I can plant a few seeds here and there, but if they're going to own what they create. And so really watching myself as a leader to not jump in all the time. And that's what they'll tell me all the time. Every time they assess me, James, they'll be like, you always try to make decisions for us. So again, I'm preaching to myself here. So being careful to not do that. So Andrew, how about you? Purifying your priorities.
Unmute.
There you go.
Well, it's just a daily habit.
Yeah.
And it's like you have your sticky notes, I have my
I
daily.
love it.
And it starts out the same every morning with messages, the thing I can get excited about, the kind of person I want to be, who needs me on my A game. It's very, I think I have to be very intentional about everything and every interaction. So I set up how I'm going to be during the day and have those like my own sticky notes version, but it's here, top 3 priorities or goals, things I must do, people I have to lead or connect with today, and how to do it well. And so I really
Uh-huh.
think about going into every interaction. And it is hard. I know that people want access, but when you give them random access, I mean, that doesn't really help them. So I'm trying to remain as structured as I can be when someone comes with a request. And they may have a high need at the time, but I believe, and I could be wrong, that we have to slow down a little bit in order to focus, in order to get to the essence of what's really going on. So I'm not, just picking up the phone, reacting. I will respond to people. And I think that helps them. I think that serves them. And my days are really spent in service. What can I say? What can I say? That's been the priority.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you said slow down. And right now, again, just caring and listening. And that's, you, Andrea, like you're such a great listener. You lead by example by being such a great listener. And I love that you said you set up intentionally how you're going to be. That's why I'm doing the B series books and the B series podcast, because I was like, how am I going to be today? Right? Not what am I going to do, but how I'm going to be. And so kind of taking the doing, but sliding it to being, right, through that process. So
your doing is really a result of your being.
Yes.
And who you bring into it gives you the results that you're looking for. And then
period.
James about reflection. So important. So important.
I love that.
So
what was me,
every evening there's a reflection. Did I do well today?
Yeah.
Was I being, where did I go off base? Because I do, and
that was
I'm gonna do it better tomorrow.
I'll do better tomorrow if I be better. Yeah.
Be better.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying earlier. Like we can all be better, through this whole crisis, both crises that we're going through right now. We can be better. And so what was something that you learned, in the chat box, all of you that are on the Zoom call or in the Facebook page, what is something that you heard that you're like, you know what, I need to purify my priorities even more? What can you do to continue? And I think this is going to be a lifelong process for me, always thinking, okay, Tina, what are you going to do this quarter to purify your priorities? And the next lesson was challenging my capacity through the process. And I want to kind of share with you some of my notes here that I have. And that is ways to challenge your capacity. And so it kind of goes back to when I've talked before about the law of the lid, right? Because people don't quit companies, they quit people. And so instead of just thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe they all walked out on me, which I said for years because I had 2 salon walkouts, right? I finally looked in the mirror and said, Tina, what is it that you need to do differently? How could you lead differently? And so that's when I started the online masterminds, the coaching, all through that process, right? Because I'm coaching myself, but always challenging my capacity. And so I've learned even more this during the quarantine, and trust me, I have challenged my capacity through this process. But I'll tell you, with crisis comes opportunity, because you never know, hey, while you're getting ready, what can open up for you. And crazy as it sounds, more speaking events have opened up for me, more coaching things have happened for me. We're opening our 4th salon. It's crazy the incredible things that are happening in our life right now. My son moved from California to Florida to be closer to us, wants to be more involved in the business. And so it's just really cool to be able to have my family working side by side with us. But, so yeah. And so let's say through this crisis, you're like, I'm so stressed out, and in the chat box, how many of you hear yourself saying like, I'm so stressed, I'm so anxious, I'm so unmotivated, blah, 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 I'm depressed, whatever the feeling or the thought that you, or the way you keep saying, again, because whatever focus on grows, if you're focusing on anxiousness or stress or being unmotivated, right? But it isn't that, it's a capacity problem. And so I want to share with you the reason, but I believe that most of you that are probably on this call today really don't have this challenge because you're constantly leaning in and wanting to learn. And I've watched some of you, you're on every single one of these calls. Like, I'm so impressed. Like, you're taking advantage of this free education that you have and you're actually applying the information, And so, again, learning something new. So what's the best thing you've learned so far being a part of the Salon Owner Mastermind? And so what's that one thing that you shifted in yourself or in your business? We want to hear in the chat box. What have you learned from Derek and James and Andrew and all of their guest speakers that they have had through this process? So keep typing away. We want to hear what you've learned, because that's how we see the fruits of all of the efforts that every single speaker has put into this as well too. And, again, learning something new, watching webinars. There's so much free content out there. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. And I've learned so much through that free content. I've joined many contents I've paid for. Oh my gosh, John Maxwell training alone. I mean, I don't even want to tell you how much I've spent on that, but I have utilized every dollar that I have spent with this company. It's absolutely incredible. And, kind of going back to podcasts, I think podcasts are my favorite. In the chat box, how many of you love podcasts? Of course, I have to give my shout out to my own podcast, the B Series. It's a shameless plug for myself, right? And but I have to be honest, it's actually taught me how to be a better listener by interviewing people. And James, Derek, and Andrew, I'm asking you right now to be on my podcast. I know you're very busy right now, so when you're done with all of this, please, I want to interview all of you guys on my podcast. And I'm starting a second podcast called Next Level Salon Leadership, so that'll adhere to just salon owners. But of course, my B series is for all entrepreneurs, because I don't just coach salon owners, I coach entrepreneurs as well, because guess what? Business is business.
I would love to. I see you have Anthony on here, and I just did one with Anthony.
I love it. Very cool. So Anthony's on. Oh yeah, Anthony. Yep, I love his.
Yeah, we all say Anthony, right?
Yay.
Instead of Anthony.
He's Anthony. I love him and his grow book. So my books were actually edited by his editor, and because him and I became friends through the Paul Mental School world. And so we use his books in our masterminds as well too. So you could
totally tell if you're a fan of the Grow books. Tina's books follow a similar format with the bright shiny colors and everything that go through, and it makes them more fun to read. Well, listen, if the book itself is structured that way and makes it more interesting to read, you're more apt to not only read it but follow what it's explaining to you. And they're fantastic. And I owned Tina's books before I knew Tina, so.
Thank you, James. I love it. Little shameless plug for me there. But yeah, Anthony's amazing. I love his podcast. He's so great. And then Craig Rochelle, I don't know if you guys know him, but probably one of my favorite leadership podcasts that I've listened to. Most of my leadership content doesn't even come from the salon industry. I go outside of it. Like, I'm a John Maxwell coach, and I'm able to really, really adapt it. Because again, business is business and leadership is leadership. And Patrick Lencioni, I mean, I just love him. I love the book Ideal Team Player, and we've adapted. My staff loves it. My staff, they're all in their 20s, early 20s, and our teams are incredible. And what's really, they love his books. They love the book, The Ideal Team Player, and that's how we hire: humble, hungry, smart. And that's what they talk about, and it's brilliant. Highly recommend it. We use it in our Next Level Salon Coaching business as well. And of course, Born to Impact with Joel Marion. My son was actually interviewed by him, which is really great, and hoping for him to work with him because he's moved to Florida near him as well. And of course, I love Kelly Cardenas. I steal his stuff daily, and he knows it, but I always give him credit for it. So I love, what are people saying in the chat box so we can hear anything exciting?
Lots of stuff. Lots of comments coming in. I don't even know where to start. So Patty was loving the time to discover new people from the calls, how to separate emotion from the business operations side, refining and focusing on why they were doing it and rediscovering their passion. My good friend Sue, be grateful for all things big and small. Carol obviously loves the devotion of our group, of all the people that have been on, and that she's been an owner for 40 years, and she's taken a lot of classes and puts her faith back into mankind, which is a great thing. Let's see what else. Just all along the same lines. Let's see. Facebook. Raising the bar. I mean, anything great. And listen, you were on early on in this too, Tina. So, obviously the same message has resonated through with a lot of the other educators. So, and Patty thinks we're like family, but Patty doesn't know this, but I'm coming to her house for a barbecue as soon as social distancing is done on her dime.
I love it. I know every speaker has just added so much value, and I love it so much. So thanks everyone for sharing as well through this process. And, again, I think, again, challenging your capacity, and this is so hard. I mean, I'm sure if you all were in the room with me right now and I was talking to you, every hand would go up. How hard is it to say yes to things that you're afraid of? And I tell you, many years ago, I just was like, oh, I don't want to be a motivational speaker. It's so stupid. And I don't want to do this. And now you can't get the microphone out of my hand, just because I want to add value to people. I want people to know how valuable they are. And I believe every single person is an inspirational, motivational speaker. And I believe every leader needs to be, knowing just what I've seen with my own transformation, what I learned, but what I'm able to instill and add belief to my people through that process. And I think it's important. I think I coach a lot of salon owners and a lot of really high-end salon owners, and letting them know that they have to stop making decisions in their company, and they have to stop being the bad guy, that you have to have that second person on your business, so to speak, that is the bad guy, so to speak, that has to do all the hard things. And because they're actually, quite frankly, they're going to have more influence than you are, because they're not the owner. And it's too hard for an owner to do coaching, and especially hard coaching. And unless you have an appropriate, solid relationship with them in the process. And that's a whole nother ball game. But I can tell by watching some of the chats. I don't have a lot of time to spend on the Facebook page, but I do see a lot of anger still at your team. And I think, there's one side of the story, and be careful about responding to one side of the story, because there's always two sides to every story. And I always tell people the truth lies somewhere in between. And so you can't make a decision of how someone should respond to something based on just a little bit of information, through that process. And so just kind of wanted to encourage you guys in that as well too. But yeah, challenge your capacity to say yes to things that you're fearful of, and you never know what can happen, through that process. And so lastly, I want to share with you that I learned is expanding my empathy. And, like I said earlier, this whole social injustice thing has really, really opened my eyes. And I know this week is going to be a really powerful week, interviewing my friends through this process, and letting them be heard, and to use my platform to be heard through that process. And I think right now more than ever that we really need to listen. And so here's some ways. Again, sometimes, and I'm just going to say me, sometimes I get so focused on myself that I can't feel other people's pain, and I can't serve people that I don't first seek to understand. And so just going through that process, I think I said on the first call, I know I did, James, I felt that from you from day one, but I feel like you have the greatest influence on your team, and coaching your team is probably really easy because of the fact that you're not focused on yourself and you're able to see other people's pain. And I was thinking through that process, when I first met all of you guys, and I kind of see that through you. And so the best coaches, the best leaders have empathy towards people. And again, I always say, pray, don't say. I've learned this lesson the hard way. I don't always do well at it. I'm not going to lie. I fail daily at this, but being super careful about not reacting and saying what I'm thinking right away. And so, Andrew, I love what you said, to slow down, think before you speak. And that's something that I love about you that I can hear you do, and being careful of what I do say. And I think especially right now, I think we as leaders need to step back and just pray, don't say, and be careful on social media, you guys, because all eyes are on you. And salon owners, I'm talking to you right now. All eyes are on you. Your staff is watching you, and they're going to look and see how you are responding right now. And if you don't respond in love and you show that you don't value people, they're gone. And I'm telling you again, people do not quit companies. They quit people. They quit people when they don't feel valued, period. And so it's the biggest lesson to learn as a leader is to learn how to value people. How do you value people? Well, you learn to value yourself first. Again, it took me a while to learn that lesson. And, it just goes with, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And they won't go along with you until they can get along with you. And one of the lessons that John Maxwell was talking about today is the more, and I'm sure you guys have had this situation. How many of you would show in the chat that you've met someone that you didn't like before, and then you got to know them, and then you began to love them? And so that's all I'm asking, to go through this process and just learn to get to know people more, just care and listen through that process. So how about you guys, Derek and James and Andrew, how have you expanded your empathy through this process? And I know you all mentioned the word patience, which is definitely a way to expand your empathy, but let me take it a little deeper. How did you expand your empathy to learn how to be more patient? What do you think was causing you to not be patient? I'll let any of you guys answer.
Go ahead. You're going to make me go first.
Oh, yeah, go. Yes.
So coming from Jersey with the Jersey attitude, right? We are always,
yes.
and people laugh about this, but it's actually true. Most people from New Jersey, New York, we're quick to answer before we think. And it's just because our day-to-day business tends to be a lot more fast-paced and we'll say, how would we say, Tina? Get shit done right away.
Yep.
It's just like we don't have time for the nonsense. I have learned, it's always been part of my core value is to have empathy with people, because if I can't help somebody, then why am I in this business? I could be in 10 other businesses. And Andrew and I have this conversation all the time. As a crazy Marine, I ended up in the salon business. How did that happen, right? So, and I know I can help people, and I could have gone outside, even with our software, things like that, to other businesses. But when I see somebody in need, in this case, it's an industry in need, I have to fix it. I have to help. And that, if it's not in you, if empathy is not true, and empathy is really your value to help others, right? It's also feeling for others, but really the core part of it is to help others. And if that's not part of you and you're faking it, you're going to be called out right now for sure. You need to reevaluate yourself, and along with that, empathy is a side effect of that. So with everything happening, I've had to have a lot of empathy for myself, because I don't have an attitude that comes from, okay, you know what, let's all hold hands and cry together. I'm more of on the other side that says, let's all get it done. Let's fix it together. So I've had to take that step back and listen, and I've always listened, but now that I'm listening, I'm also along the side still that let's fix it together. Let's come together and fix it together. Now, how we come together is through love, whatever your value is to fix things, but it needs to be done, because right now everything's a hot mess, whether it's COVID, whether it's the racial relationships, in the Marines. I'll tell you right now, our drill instructors, you got all these people coming from all over the country into your platoon, right? And they're black, they're Hispanic, they're, as the Marines called, yellow, Asian, right? But they had funny sayings for it. You're not brown, you're not black, you're not yellow, you're not white. We're all green. And unless you get it right, I'm going to hit you in the head with a mop stick, right? So that was the Marine mentality, right? Because we're all fighting for the same cause. We're all fighting to be human outside of the Marine Corps. In the Marine Corps, we're all fighting to help people that are the citizens of the United States. But here, we're fighting to be humans. Let's get it together, folks. Let's be one. Let's get it freaking done. And I'm sorry, whether that's empathy or not, that's just my attitude. Let's get it done. Let's create a positive result. Let's not sit back and create negativity and anger and not positive results.
That's so powerful. I love that. Something I kind of want to expand on just for a second. And I love that you said that, because we all need to be a Marine. That'll be your segment with my B series, be a Marine, because that's so important. But I think if there's one thing that I think hairdressers can be on the forefront of this, because they are the most incredulous people that love people. Otherwise, you would never be a hairstylist, right? Because no one would come to you, because people would know that you don't love them and they're gone, right? And so I think one of the things that I've been seeing, Derek, is, hairdressers not feeling essential because they're told that they're not essential. And I'm like, I did a B series of Be Essential, right? Because you are essential. And I think a lot of hairdressers are now feeling more essential now. I mean, obviously we're looking on social media and people look awful, and so we're going through that process, and they need us. And not just because they look awful, but oh my gosh, when I get my hair done and I just feel $1 million and I feel confident, and I'm not as anxious or depressed, and I feel like I could take on the world, and so we truly are essential through that process. But I think something you hit, because of course I've heard that, I'm a Michigander, New Yorkers, and then New York mentality and the Boston mentality, and you hear this culture. But I've always told my team, I'm like, listen, we can't use that as an excuse. You're a leader here in Florida, you're a leader in Michigan, and you can't say, well, that's just who I am. No, we have to stop, look, and listen, and really study our people, and really know who we're leading and who we're bringing on, and what is the values that you have, in your company. So James, how have you expanded your empathy, and how do you do that?
I think really I learned to ask better questions. I'm always the type, and I know Derek mentioned the Jersey mentality, but I'm always reactive. Like, if there's a fire, I'll run in and save the cat before I realize that I'm on fire too, type of thing, or it's my own house,
I'm not surprised.
But I think asking better questions, we've been having staff meetings throughout this entire closure, once a week, and obviously relationships with the stylists. So some of them are texting them or Facebook messaging, and you just don't realize what other people are going through. And I think sometimes that saying of walk a mile in my shoes, people just don't realize what that actually means. So I feel like asking better questions, at least it prepares me to answer better, because it gives me a pause. So if I ask you something and I'm, really looking for what your feelings are, how things are, while you're answering, I'm kind of thinking about my answer back to you better than I would have being so reactive typically on a day-to-day. And listen, you have to remember too, we were all leading up into the religious holidays, right? Like Easter, Passover before we close. So, we're pre-booking and we're go. And then graduations and Mother's Day were next. So we were booked out for weeks and weeks at that point. So to have the brakes put on. You know, your reactive self just is a little bit angry. So I think that thoughtfulness of being able to take a step back and ask better questions really helped me a lot.
Oh yeah. I'd have to say for sure, I know I had to lead by example, especially in Michigan. And I know the Michigan salon owners are, understanding, and it's so easy to get angry. And I'm like, I'm not going there. I'm going to say, you know what, with crisis comes opportunity. We're just going to move forward. We actually ended up remodeling a salon when we didn't think we were going to, and took the time to do that. But I love what you said is and this is Christine Zielinski said this in our last mastermind that I was just on, a minute ago before this call, is put your curiosity hat on, and leaders ask great questions. And so something I'm learning, Andrew, through the process of asking better questions to take my people through that. So thanks for sharing that. I think that's incredible. So how about you, Andrew? How are you expanding your empathy learning to?
Well, let's put it this way. Life is hard. Life is really hard. It's, we can always look at the other, and we should never compare ourselves with the other. That's a very destructive way of behavior. Life is hard. Some people are harder on themselves than others. Some people are way too hard on themselves.
Yeah.
And they torture themselves. And I have, my heart goes out to them. And everyone, and I believe this to my core, everyone has greatness inside of them. We just have to see it, and I see it. They don't see it necessarily, but they have to find it. And my job here is to help them do that. But in order to have that happen, they have to feel that I'm empathic, which I am, but they really have to get it. And when someone feels that, then they can rise up. And only then can they. And they can become whatever we want to call it, the best version of themselves. They can become great, personally, professionally. People, you go back to fear, people are in fear. We have to be empathic to that. But also, leaders can help them move beyond when they understand what that fear is all about. When the person themselves gets it and takes that step to move through it, so they become the best that they can be. But it all starts with, James said, standing in someone else's shoes, experiencing that. And that takes a lot of work. And realizing that, everyone has their own way in the world. Everyone has their own answer. I haven't really met anyone who thinks they're really stupid. They don't. And everyone deserves to be treated as Derek said, everyone's a human. And it's really hard to be a human. It's difficult. And it's a struggle. So I'm really empathic around that. That's all I can say to you.
So powerful. Yeah, I can't even add anything to that. And that's my question, is that who you are as a leader? Again, I think it just goes, people won't go along with you unless they can get along with you, unless they can feel that you really care about them. And I'll tell you, kind of going through my own struggles in my own life, it wasn't until I had to borrow the belief of people around me. And that's what our team needs. They need our belief in them. And that's really all you need to do as a leader. Just believe in people and add value to your people, and you'll soar. If it's people before profit, the profit will come, right? And so and I made that mistake for many years. I put profit before people. And, I wasn't empathetic, and I didn't have, these thoughts or anything that I'm teaching everyone, right now today. Again, I'm teaching myself. So how is everybody responding to this through the process, and what has everyone learned? Is there anything anyone added?
Let's see. So Jacqueline said on Facebook she loves showing someone their greatness, even if it's a little glimpse. I'm surprised Steven Statland didn't have anything to say, but I don't know, maybe he will put something up there. Bella learned perspective. Cindy said that her reactive self was, as a New Yorker born and bred, was to not have the knee-jerk response anymore. Just listen, positivity, which I know you can't be anything but positive, which is a great thing. I need you. You know what I need? I need to record you like my Alexa on my alarm clock when I wake up. Either you or Christine Zielinski. But the problem is, if it's Christine, it'll wake me up at like 4:30 in the morning to watch the sunrise. So I think maybe you and I are a better fit.
Yeah, she's a little bit too early for me as well. I'm usually part of the 5 a.m. club, but lately it's been 6 a.m. So I love it.
Hey group, if you're getting a lot out of this and it's really moving you inside, just put a number 1 in the chat. If you are not learning that you should be empathetic, put a number 2.
It's good.
Just checking to see if everybody's awake.
Yeah, there we go. Wake them up. Maybe they're falling asleep on us. They're not. They're responding very well. I'm impressed. You guys are awesome. She says, LOL. I love it. Yeah, and of course, this takes us to the end of my presentation. But of course, I would love to be asked back, because I would love to do the fatal flaws of a leader, of course. And it's a new message. I haven't given it to anyone yet. I didn't even give this last one to anyone yet. So you guys got some of my new content that I have going on that I'm learning. So again, with crisis comes opportunity. I'm learning a lot about myself and things I need to shift through the process to grow, to go to the next level,
And, Tina loves to use the Post-it note thing in her books and everything else. And what she doesn't know is I actually sourced these monstrous Post-it notes. So this isn't my typical office that I work in. This is sort of the modified version with the kids. But usually it's downstairs because, bandwidth is never an issue until there's everybody in school. So I have to be plugged directly into the power source here. But I have these monster Post-it notes downstairs that it's like what was that? Howie Mandel used to do the little kid thing. It's like one of those things. It's pretty funny.
Oh my gosh, I am so plugged in to my garage right now. You don't even want to see my background. We were running around. There was a huge storm in Florida running around. I lost my internet connection. So I wasn't even on my last call. I was listening on the phone on my last mastermind that I do with Christine. And then I'm like, I have to get on with Derek and James and Andrew. And so I made it, but I'm in the garage.
Hey, listen, I don't have a lighting kit. I actually glow in the dark now from being so plugged into the router.
I am plugged in too. Trust me. Oh my gosh, my family was helping me. They're all running around helping me.
They did a great job. Congratulate them.
Yes, I will. I'll let them know. Thank you guys so much for having me on. You guys are all amazing. So,
Tina, we definitely want to have you back for sure. Next time we should have you and Christine on at the same time.
There we go.
We can tease Christine.
We're just gonna Zoom bomb their Monday class. Everybody will have to get on a little bit earlier. We're just gonna jump in. We'll get the password.
That would be cool.
Exactly.
Yeah, you could be our surprise guest speakers. How's that?
Oh, listen, we're bringing everybody with us. So.
And bring everybody. Yeah, we'll go live. I love it.
So thanks everybody for showing up this evening. If you have any last minute questions, let's get them out there before we wrap things up.
Crashers, they
James,
said.
anything in Facebook or on the group?
Thank you, Lori.
No, it's funny that the comments come back. Everything went so fast. It was. I think positive messages are always something, especially right now. I think it was perfect timing to have you back on here, Tina. As everybody sort of was building up to try to get their salons reopened and then to have everything that's happening now outside, it's just, your feelings are all over the place. And I feel like what we've been doing all along and sort of preparing everybody to reopen, I hope mentally that's helped you guys as well navigate this time that's going on, because it's difficult. I mean, it's the last, you never want too much icing on a cake, and this is definitely the icing that you didn't want after being closed for X amount of weeks. And it's hard. And think of it this way. I wish that we had clients on here with you, Tina, because, like I said, the client experience is singular, right? We talk about serving the clients. What do you think they're going through? I know we're all trying to navigate 700 appointments, but it's just hard. And you're going to be masked. They're going to want to talk about it. So it's going to be an interesting few weeks for sure.
Oh yeah. And I just taking it back to the very beginning, that leaders lead, and just don't go silent right now. Don't go silent. And I hope this gave you the courage to not go silent. That's, because I tell you, my feelings were all over the place, and thank God I got centered this morning. And I don't know what told me that I should be on this call, because when you had emailed me and I'm like, no, I'm supposed to be on another call. And I'm like, no, I'm going to be on this one. I'm supposed to be. And now I know why. So thank you guys so much for having me, and all of you that joined today.
Thank you, Tina.
Thank you guys.
Be human, be real, be relevant.
I love it. Who said that? That's good.
Me.
You said, okay. Be real, be relevant. I better write that down.
You're going to put it in the B books.
You know I am.
Get your own B-book.
Oh, that's funny.
That's fun. That's fantastic. All right. Thanks,
folks.
Bella.
Everybody have a nice
Namaste.
evening. And we will see you soon on the BBR. Thank you so much, Tina. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Derek.
Thanks to the audience for showing up as usual. And
Wednesday
let's get
night,
it done,
Derek.
folks.
Wednesday. We'll see y'all.
Thank you guys.
Peace.
Peace.